Welcome, my friends. I'm so grateful you chose to spend these minutes with me on English Heritale. Think back to the last time you sat in a dark room and completely forgot, that you were sitting in a room at all. When the screen in front of you stopped being a screen and became a world. When the characters stopped being actors and became people you knew, people you worried about, people you missed when it was over. Most of us know this feeling. It has happened to all of us at some point. A movie reached inside us and touched something real. Now, here is the question nobody asks. Who built that? Who looked at a dusty patch of California land more than 100 years ago, a land of pepper trees and fruit farmers and quiet Sunday mornings, and decided, right here, this is where we make dreams? Who built the machine that has made more human beings feel more things than any other storytelling invention in all of human history? Today on English Heritale, we are going to answer that question. Today we tell the story of Hollywood. Not the red carpets, not the golden statues, the real story, the strange story. The story of immigrants and inventors, and a man who wanted to know whether a horse lifts all 4 feet off the ground when it runs. It is a story wilder and more fascinating than almost any movie Hollywood ever made. So, find a comfortable place, take a slow breath, and let the story begin. The year was 1878. The place was a racetrack in California. And the question, as I said, was about a horse. A wealthy businessman named Leland Stanford had made a bet. He believed that a galloping horse, at the peak of its stride, lifted all 4 feet off the ground at the same time. Nobody could prove it. The human eye was simply too slow. So Stanford hired a photographer named Edward Muybridge and asked him to find the answer. Muybridge set up a series of cameras along the edge of the track, connected to tripwires. When the horse ran past, each camera captured one frozen moment of the gallop in sequence. And when Muybridge placed those photographs together and moved through them rapidly, one after another, something happened that stopped everyone in the room. The horse moved. Not in reality, on paper. In sequence. It ran. And in that moment, something clicked inside the human imagination that has never clicked back. Moving images. The illusion of life captured on a flat surface. It sounds simple now. It was everything then. From that moment, a race began. Inventors across America and Europe competed to be the first to capture moving images on film and show them to a paying audience. Thomas Edison, the most famous inventor in America, built an early motion picture device. But Edison's machine had a problem. Only one person could watch at a time, peering through a small hole as if looking through a keyhole into another world. It was remarkable, but it was private. And the people who would build Hollywood understood something very early. The magic of moving pictures was not a private experience. It was a shared one. It needed a room. It needed an audience. It needed darkness and a large white wall and the sound of strangers breathing together in the same emotion. In 1895, 2 French brothers named Auguste and Louis Lumière held the first public film screening in history in a basement in Paris. They showed simple, short films: a train arriving at a station, workers leaving a factory, a baby eating lunch. Nothing dramatic, nothing scripted, just life moving on a wall. The audience screamed when the train appeared to come toward them. Their bodies believed what their eyes were telling them, even when their minds knew better. The movies had arrived,
and the world would never be the same. In the early 1900s, the film business in America was controlled almost entirely from New York and New Jersey, under the tight fist of Thomas Edison and a powerful group of companies called the Motion Picture Patents Company. They controlled the technology. They controlled the patents. They controlled who could make films and who could not. And they were not gentle about protecting that control. Independent filmmakers who tried to make movies without their permission faced lawyers, broken equipment, and men who showed up at their studios with something other than friendly intentions. So, the independent filmmakers did what people have always done when powerful forces try to control them. They ran. They ran as far west as they could go. They ran to a small, quiet, sun-drenched community on the western edge of Los Angeles, a community called Hollywood. And they chose it for reasons that were almost entirely practical. The weather was perfect, 300 days of sunshine a year, which mattered enormously when your cameras needed natural light. The landscape was extraordinary. Mountains, deserts, beaches, and forests, all within an hour's drive, meaning you could film almost any story without ever leaving Southern California.
And perhaps most importantly of all, it was 3,000 miles from Edison's lawyers. Hollywood was not glamorous when the first filmmakers arrived. It was a quiet agricultural town of fruit farmers and pepper trees and slow Sunday mornings. Some boarding houses put up signs that read, "No dogs and no actors." The locals were not entirely pleased, but the filmmakers stayed, and they began to build something the world had never seen before. The studios appeared almost overnight. Companies with names that still carry enormous weight today, Paramount, Universal, Warner Brothers, were founded in these years by a remarkable group of men. Nearly all of them were immigrants, Jewish immigrants, most of them, from Eastern Europe, who had arrived in America with almost nothing and found in the new medium of film a business that the old establishment had not yet decided was serious, had not yet locked the doors to. They walked through the open door and built an empire. And then came the thing that changed everything again. For the first 20 years of Hollywood's existence, movies had no sound. Actors spoke, but audiences could not hear them. Music was played live in the theater by a pianist or small orchestra. The performances were enormous and expressive, and almost operatic, because the face and the body were the only instruments an actor had. In 1927, a film called The Jazz Singer changed everything. It was the first feature film with synchronized sound. When the lead actor looked at the camera and spoke his words directly to the audience, the people in the theater felt something shift beneath their feet. The silent era was over in almost a single moment. Some actors whose faces had made them legends found that their voices did not match the image people had of them. Careers ended overnight. New stars were born. Hollywood reinvented itself completely and kept moving. Then came what many people still call the Golden Age. The 1930s and 1940s. The great studios at their most powerful. They owned the theaters. They owned the contracts of the actors. They decided what stories got told, and how they got told, and who got to tell them. Actors were not free agents. They belonged, in a very real sense, to the studio that had signed them. The studio told them what films to make, what clothes to wear in public, sometimes even who to be seen with and who to marry. And yet, out of this controlled and complicated system came some of the greatest films ever made. Casablanca, Citizen Kane, The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind. Films that people still watch today, still cry at today, still quote today, 80 years after they were made. Films that reached inside people and touched something that has not faded with time. Hollywood had discovered something that no one had fully understood before. Stories, told well, with light and sound and music, and the human face filling an enormous screen in a dark room, could reach directly into the human heart in a way that nothing else quite could. Not books, not theater, not radio. The movies got inside people, and Hollywood had a monopoly on making them. The world has changed enormously since those early days of Edison's lawyers and silent actors and fruit farmers who did not want actors on their property. Hollywood today faces competition from streaming services, from international film industries, from the phone screen, and the 10,000 other ways a story can now reach an audience. The old studio system is long gone. The golden age is history. But something remains. Something that was there from the very beginning, from the moment Muybridge's photographs of that galloping horse first flickered into motion and made a room full of people gasp. The hunger. The deep, universal, completely human hunger to sit in the dark and watch a story unfold. To feel something you might not feel in your ordinary day. To travel somewhere you have never been. To live for 2 hours inside someone else's skin and come back changed in some small and quiet way. That hunger hasn't changed. It will not change. And as long as it exists, Hollywood, or whatever Hollywood becomes next, will be there to feed it. And for you, my friend, listening to this story today, there is something here that belongs to your English journey too. Every great Hollywood story began with someone who refused to stop, who ran 3,000 miles when the doors were closed, who stayed when the locals put up signs, who rebuilt when everything changed overnight. You are doing the same thing. Every time you sit down and listen, every time you push through a difficult word or a sentence that does not yet make sense, every time you come back when it would be easier not to, you are building something, slowly, quietly, one story at a time. Thank you for walking through this story with me today on English Heritale. If this journey touched something in you, leave a comment and tell me which part of Hollywood's story stayed with you the most. Share it with a friend who is also learning English, and come back for the next story, because the journey continues, and I will be here waiting for you.